So here's Bozo the clown with his big red nose. Look, this guy, realistically, he put us into Brexit, which has been a debacle. You know, he's been absolutely ineffective and useless at pretty much everything so far, you know, that he's done. So, you know, he says here that, you know, tenants are often frightened to raise a complaint. If they do, there's no guarantee they won't be penalised for it. You know, that their rent won't be shoot up as a result. You know, that they won't be hit with a Section 21 to move out. I mean, this is just bullshit. Yeah, absolute BS. Yeah, yes, there's a small minority of people that do that. Number one is you can't just shoot your rent up. In order to shoot your rent up, you need to take something. So you need to RPI, CPI. Yeah. In other words, the market is going up. So why shouldn't you be allowed to put the rent up? Yeah. And actually, that doesn't look like it's changing here. So that's not going to change. You should be able to. You can only do it once a year. So that hasn't changed. So to link this, oh, they're frightened to raise a complaint. You know, this is the stupid stuff that this guy, you know, is deluded about. All right. The interesting thing is, you know, they're talking about poor quality homes. They want to halve the, you know, poor quality homes by 2030. Well, okay, great. So let's look at how they're going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to raise the EPC standards. They're going to give more power to local councils. They've got unlimited power now virtually anyway. They just don't use it. All they want is the fee that they can charge for landlord licensing so they can make money. You know, and I guess the penalties, yeah, which is just friggin' ridiculous. You know, so this bozo, you know, is basically doing this. And yeah, you know, do I like this guy? No, not at all. I think he has got one thing in mind, and that's to push out small landlords and to bring in his buddies, you know, just like this government is doing everywhere across the board. And the worst thing is Labor's going to do exactly the same, because guess what? Keir Starmer's not going to be any different than this. You know, if anything, he'll be worse, okay? So, you know, how do we get around this? And I think rather than being totally negative, look, I've done my negative bit now, but the reality is with this is that what you've got to look at here is how can you still make money? What are the opportunities? What do you need to do to ensure you're on the right side of things and making money, not on the wrong side of things, getting penalised and all this sort of stuff? But it does mean there is going to be more regulation, compliance, because there's ombudsman involved and all that sort of stuff. So the private rented sector thing, I mean, this is another thing. Backed by a powerful new ombudsman so that disputes between tenants and landlords can be settled quickly and cheaply without going to court. Well, this is not quickly and cheaply. The ombudsmans that currently work do not go cheaply and quickly. Yes, they do for the tenant, but not for the agent, not for the landlord, because the reality is rather than being this innocent until proven guilty, the onus is put on the landlord or the agent to provide all the details. So the trick here, if you want to continue to make money, yeah, is that you have to document everything and you have to not take anything at face value. Don't listen to your tenant and what they may say. Put it in writing, get it in writing, and make sure it's backed up like that. Now, it says without going to court. The reality is by far the majority of things are antisocial behaviour and rent. Yeah. Yes, there's damages as well. So there is an element of that as well, but not as much. Okay. Certainly the rent. Well, what is the ombudsman going to be able to force the tenant to pay rent or evict them? No, they're not. So the reality is all they can do is levy fines up to £25,000. All right. So is it a new ombudsman? Who the hell knows if it's a new ombudsman or they're just going to extend the current ombudsman? I mean, if they allow tenant landlords to join the new current ombudsman thing, voila, it's fixed. Are they going to make it quicker and cheaper? I doubt it. Yeah, I don't see how they're going to do that because the evidence that has to be provided and the bundles and all that sort of stuff. Okay, and half these monkeys that they employ at bloody the ombudsman, some of the decisions that we've seen made just don't make sense. You know, and you've got to, you know, well, there's no recourse. Yeah, you know, so you've got to play their game where it's at, which is unfortunate. I love this vast majority of responsible landlords. But then when we have a look at some of the stats they talk about, it shows that most, by more than 50%, aren't in compliant or aren't good landlords. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I love it. These reforms will ease the financial burden on renters. What about landlords? Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the thing that's been ignored here. It's all about giving renters a fairer deal, a better deal. Well, I tell you what, you know what? I'm all for people who don't do the right thing, yeah? But rather than going across the whole industry and just making massive added expense to all landlords, why not target the people that aren't performing? Because I can tell you the amount of landlords, because obviously I read the forums and do all this, that do things wrong, yeah, and get away with it and continue to get away with it. And it doesn't matter if you go to council what you do, yeah, it's incredible. They need to pick their act up. That's the real problem here.